Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. We're into some midweek group of 5 action. This time of the year is fun. Starts now with some Conference USA, then we get into some action in a few weeks. This time of the year is fun. That being said, these 2 games in particular are pretty rough. Just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, we're dealing with 4 of the worst teams in the country. And on top of that, there are 2 games, Missouri State, Middle Tennessee, Liberty, UTEP. Of those 4 teams, we don't know who's playing quarterback for 3 of them. So on top of the fact that we're dealing with 4 very bad football teams, we've got injury question marks on 2 with 2 of the quarterbacks. And then we also got a UTEP team. I don't even know who the starter is anymore. I think it's still Malachi Nelson, but they haven't announced that. He got benched last game after throwing 4 interceptions. So we don't know who's playing quarterback for 3 of the 4 teams that we're about to see play. It's midweek Conference USA. Please, for the love of God, bet these games responsibly. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. Missouri State, Middle Tennessee. We're talking some Conference USA action here. In this particular game, we should see a lot of passing. Well, we should see a lot of passing if Jacob Clark plays. We'll talk about it in a second. Based on what we've seen so far this year, Missouri State 27th in passing frequency. Middle Tennessee is 2nd. So we should see a lot of throwing the football in this game. Now, whether or not those passes go for interceptions or explosive plays, who knows with these 2 teams. But we should see a lot of throwing the ball. I mentioned Jacob Clark. He might not play in this game. He was seen on crutches, so it's tough to say. These 2 teams are coming off a bye week, so he had plenty of time. I'm reading that he's questionable. This will be a huge loss to Missouri State because Jacob Clark's been pretty good. That's their quarterback, by the way. And this would be a perfect matchup for him, this Middle Tennessee defense that doesn't generate pressure at all. They blitz a lot, but don't generate pressure. And based on his numbers so far, that's the perfect combo for Jacob Clark. So if Jacob Clark's able to play, Missouri State should be able to move the ball pretty fluently. Now, if he doesn't play, Deuce Bailey will be getting the start at quarterback. He's 6 foot. He's a freshman. Took over midway through the Western Kentucky game. I mean, his passing numbers were bad. He had 8 carries for 61 yards on the ground. So he's more of a scrambler. He's a freshman. Like I said, it seems like Missouri State's offense will look a hell of a lot different if Deuce Bailey's at quarterback rather than Jacob Clark. So we need to know who's going to be playing quarterback in this game to really put a number on it. Because like I said, if Deuce Bailey's going to be the starter in this one, we might see Missouri State running the ball a bit more. And that actually plays into the strength of this Middle Tennessee defense. I know the word strength and Middle Tennessee defense don't belong in the same sentence, but they actually have some solid numbers against the run so far this year. They're 65th in success rate per rush, 51st in PPA per rush. So if Deuce Bailey's going to be the quarterback, it might not be a wild thing to say Middle Tennessee can play a decent defensive game in this one. On the other side of the ball, this is where, I mean, Middle Tennessee's offense is so disappointing this year. They're at home against Missouri State. They should move the ball. Remember, coming into the season, there was actually some hype surrounding this Middle Tennessee offense. They brought back Vadiauto at quarterback. He's been the quarterback there for like a decade. He's probably the most experienced starting quarterback in the entire FBS. I don't know that for a fact, but I would imagine. I mean, he's a 5-year starter. It's just really been disappointing. They brought back some pieces on the offensive line. They brought back some wide receiving weapons from last year, although I believe they're dealing with some injuries in terms of the wide receivers. But it's been a very disappointing start for Vadiauto. Now, what you could say, if you're a Middle Tennessee Blue Raider fan, you could point at the last 2 games and say, hey, Kyle, our offense is starting to come around. And, okay, I suppose that's fair. 6.4 yards per play in their last 2. Success rate just over 41%. Middle Tennessee State's a pass-first offense all the way. So the success rate, take it or leave it. They're trying to make explosive plays. But 22 points per game against Marshall and Kennesaw State is whatever, not the best defenses. But at home against Missouri State, it's not really a good defense. And that's kind of another thing that makes this game challenging. You look at Missouri State's defensive game logs here. I mean, they got lit up by USC. They're supposed to. They got lit up by SMU. Actually, they played SMU tough for a little while there. That was at home, though. They got lit up by Western Kentucky. They're supposed to. It's tough because this Missouri State defense has looked bad in some of these games. But I mean, USC, SMU, Western Kentucky, these are all teams that are so much better than Middle Tennessee. And Missouri State looked good defensively against Marshall and UT Martin. But I would say Middle Tennessee State's offense is better than Marshall and UT Martin. So I really don't know on this one. It would only be Middle Tennessee for me here. If Jacob Clark doesn't play, I don't even think Missouri State should be favored. But if Jacob Clark does play, I think the line is pretty justified. I mean, you want to tell me Missouri State's a better team than Middle Tennessee State? Okay, that's fair. I would agree with that. But laying 2.5 points on the road, I mean, we're talking 3.5, 4 points on a neutral. I think that's a little bit much. So it would only be Middle Tennessee State for me here. If you get a Middle Tennessee State plus 2.5 and Deuce Bailey ends up playing quarterback, it's the backup, the freshman, I actually think that's a great bet. But obviously, we won't know an answer on that. So Middle Tennessee State for me, I didn't bet this one. Liberty, UTEP. If you told me that Liberty might have problems moving the football against UTEP's defense 6 weeks ago, I probably would have said you don't know much about college football. But here we are. To give UTEP some credit, 45th in success rate, 20th in PPA. They have played some good defense. And it's not like they're racking up these defensive numbers against bad teams. I mean, they played Utah State. They can move the ball. Bronco Mendenhall's got a decent Mountain West offense there. They played Texas. They played Louisiana Monroe, who doesn't look all that bad. And they played Louisiana Tech. That's kind of a bad offense. They're more of a defensive team. So UTEP putting up decent defensive numbers here. Here's the problem. For UTEP's defense, they're going to be missing both starting linebackers, Joshua Randolph and Garrett Hawkins. Both suffered season-ending injuries in the Texas game. So since that Texas game, we've seen UTEP play 2 games. Those happen to be their 2 easiest games in terms of opposing offenses. They played Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Tech. Those are not great offenses, and they allowed 30.5 points per game in those 2 games. Now, the success rate looks all right. The yards per play looks all right. They still deserve some credit. They played some decent defense in the game, but we haven't seen this defense tested since they lost their 2 starting linebackers there. So it should be a good matchup for Liberty offense, right? They can exploit this defense missing both starting linebackers. Here's the problem. When we're talking about injuries, I mean, look at the Liberty offense. They're dealing with serious injuries on this side of the ball. Their quarterback, Ethan Vasco, he got injured during the James Madison game. Jamie Chadwell says he's hopeful that Vasco returns for this game, but I have no idea what that means. I have no idea if we could expect Vasco to be out there. The backup quarterback certainly hasn't looked great. Also, their RB1, their main running back, Evan Dickens, he left the Old Dominion game, and it looks like he's in concussion protocol. So I'm not sure if he's going to play either. I guess that'll be about 10, 11 days ago. So I'm not sure if they're going to have their running back either. And they're also missing their starting left tackle, Trey Badowski. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But they're also going to be missing their starting left tackle. He got injured in week 2 and hasn't returned. From what I'm reading, he won't be back for this game. So we're talking about UTEP missing 2 starting linebackers. There's a chance Liberty could be missing their quarterback, running back, and left tackle for this game. I would say they're definitely missing the left tackle. Quarterback and running back, I'm not sure, but it doesn't look good for the running back. It's really tough to trust this Liberty offense right now. I mean, they were struggling to move the ball against Maine. They were struggling against Jacksonville State. That's a terrible defense. Just 13 points against Bowling Green, another terrible defense. I mean, UTEP is not a great football team, but at what point do we have to start pricing out Liberty as a really bad Conference USA team? Because that's how they've played so far this year. I mean, personally, I think if Vasco plays, they will move the ball. I don't think this UTEP defense is nearly as good as the numbers show. So I think if Vasco plays, we can count on Liberty to move the ball. But I won't trust this offense unless I know for certain Ethan Vasco is going to play. On the other side of the ball, this is where Liberty's been slightly better. I mean, they've been disappointing on this side as well, but not nearly as disappointing as the offense. More injury news on this side for Liberty. Starting safety and one of the team's leading tacklers, Brian Green. He was carted off the field in the Old Dominion game. He is going to miss some time, although there's some good news with that. He avoided structural damage from what I'm reading. So it's not nearly as serious as they thought. He will not be playing in this game, though. So Liberty missing their safety, one of their main tacklers there. But, I mean, do they even need him to stop the UTEP offense? This offense looks terrible. They're 134th in success rate, 132nd in PPA. I mean, this offense flat out hasn't been very good. We're not even 100% sure who's playing quarterback for this team right now. I think it's still going to be Malachi Nelson. He's been the starter all year, but he threw 4 interceptions against Louisiana Tech, and they benched him. So, I mean, I don't know if they were just benching him because, kind of just like, hey, take the rest of the day off. It's not your day. Threw 4 interceptions. Skylar Locklear came over and actually threw a touchdown pass. But I'm not sure. From what I'm reading, it still sounds like Malachi Nelson is the main quarterback, but couldn't get a definitive answer on that. I will say, if it is going to be Malachi Nelson, his main problem has been dealing with pressure. He's been terrible under pressure so far this year. Liberty's pass rush has been awful. 13.7% pressure rate. This team cannot generate pressure. So if there was ever a matchup for Malachi Nelson to have himself a good game, I mean, his passer rating with a clean pocket is 85. That's still bad, but it's much better than 11, because that's what his QB rating is under pressure. So maybe Malachi Nelson, the benching late in the game, that's a wake-up call. This Liberty defense can't pressure the passer. I'm spitballing here. I mean, this UTEP offense has been so bad. And you know what? They are coming off a bye week, and they should be healthier on the offensive side of the ball. Their main wide receiver is Kenny Odom. He missed week 4, and he was actually back in their last game, but he was hobbled. He didn't really get many targets in that game. So off the bye week, he should be at full strength. There's also a chance they get their tight end back, Ezinwa. That's not confirmed, though. They might get their tight end back as well. But their main wide receiver, Kenny Odom, he should be back at full strength. I mean, this offense, they're averaging 18 points per game, 27.9% success rate in their last 2. It's tough to be optimistic about the UTEP offense, but look at Liberty's defense against the pass in their last 2. They've gotten absolutely cooked through the air. 9.45 yards per pass attempt allowed, success rate over 45%. So maybe coming off the bye week at home, a little bit healthier, maybe UTEP can throw the ball. Personally, I don't think this game should be under a field goal. It really comes down to Vasco. I'm seeing a 1.5 open right now. If I knew Ethan Vasco was playing in this game, I would lay the 1.5 with Liberty. By no means do I think Liberty's good. UTEP's just not good at all. So if Ethan Vasco plays, I would lay the 1.5. It sucks. We got 2 Conference USA games on Wednesday night. They're pretty bad football games, and both of them were dealing with injuries to the quarterback position. So it's a tough night. Give me Liberty minus 1.5. Thanks for watching. We'll be live at midnight. As always, if you're able to make it, love seeing the comments. Let's have ourselves a good week. Please bet responsibly.